My name is Samantha Delgado. I'm a 35-year-old woman living in the bustling city of San Antonio, Texas. In many ways, I had an ordinary life. I worked as a graphic designer at a local firm, and I loved my job. I took pride in my ability to combine creativity with technology. In my personal life, I was married to a man named Lucas for 10 long years. I thought I knew him inside out. Lucas was the kind of person who would light up a room with his laughter. We had our ups and downs, but I always believed that our love was strong enough to weather any storm. However, beneath that happy facade, trouble was brewing, and I had no idea that I would soon find myself in a battle for my heart and dignity. Things took a dark turn when a close friend approached me one afternoon. She had an anxious look on her face, which sent a chill down my spine. After a moment of hesitation, she finally told me that she had witnessed Lucas getting cozy with another woman at a restaurant downtown. My heart sank as the reality of her words began to settle in. I questioned her judgment and asked her if she was sure, and she insisted that she was not mistaken. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from underneath me. My world was shaken to its core. I loved this man, and the thought of him being unfaithful filled me with rage and despair. Days passed, and I decided that I needed to catch Lucas in the act to truly believe my friend's words. I gathered the courage to confront the issue head-on. I started to monitor his movements, carefully checking his phone when he was distracted, and making note of the times he came home late. The more I investigated, the more evidence I found of his betrayal. Messages filled with affection from a person named Brandy constantly flashed across the screen, and I could no longer ignore the truth. I was not just a wife. I had become a prey to his deceit. Lucas was not only cheating on me, but was doing so with someone who appeared to have the audacity to flaunt their affair without care. Brandy, a younger, vibrant woman who worked with him. It felt like a punch to the gut, and I became consumed by my pain and rage. I initially tried to reach out to Lucas, believing that maybe he would confess, perhaps even repent. I planned an evening filled with opportunities for a heartfelt discussion, a dinner at our favorite Mexican restaurant, just like old times. But when I asked him outright if there was someone else, he laughed it off, avoiding the question altogether. It felt like my heart shattered into a million pieces in that moment. As the days went on, I began to concoct my revenge. I wanted to show both him and this woman that actions have consequences. In my deep despair, I hatched a plan. Brandy was known to have a lovely little dog named Max who was always at the office with her. That dog was her pride and joy. I decided that, if Lucas could disregard our vows so easily, why should I not have a little fun of my own? My plan was simple yet satisfying. I would adopt Max without hesitation and watch as Brandy spiraled into a state of sorrow. After all, a dear pet is so much more than just a dog. It represents unconditional love and companionship. I contacted a local shelter and arranged to adopt a dog. There I was, wearing a bright smile, pretending to be the happiest pet owner in the world. I still could not shake the excitement of the revenge I was about to execute. The day I picked up Max was filled with pure satisfaction. Harnessed in my hands was a little piece of Brandy's life, a tangible representation of her bond with Lucas. I felt like an artist unveiling a masterpiece. Only mine was about to become a work of art in chaos. As I introduced Max into my life, I realized that caring for him was not just part of my plan to get back at Brandy. This adorable dog brought newfound joy into my life. He became my companion, my solace in the wake of heartbreak. I had not just adopted a pet. I discovered a partner that needed me as much as I needed him. But to truly execute my grand plan, I had to find a way to let Brandy know I had Max. I began posting photos of the little dog on social media, me and Max having the time of our lives. I showcased his cute antics, his charming personality, and the joy he brought to my life. I could only imagine Brandy scrolling through her feed in utter shock and despair, realizing her precious one was gone. One fateful evening, I received a message from Brandy. It was filled with anger and sorrow. She demanded to know how I had managed to steal her dog. Her bitterness was palpable through the screen, filling me with a twisted sense of triumph. I decided to respond, giving her a piece of my mind. I told her that while she had stolen my husband, I had now taken her beloved dog and that it was indeed poetic justice. Lucas, of course, was awestruck and furious when he found out what I had done. He confronted me, demanding that I return Max to Brandy. It was quite the dramatic showdown in our living room. and it drove home the point that revenge is often a double-edged sword. I had made my stand and etched my feelings about betrayal in the clearest way I could. As the days turned into weeks, the thrill of revenge grew numb in my spirit. I still had Max, and I loved spending time with him, but I could feel a nagging unease. I had succeeded in hurting Brandy and Lucas, but at what cost? The incessant negativity from Lucas's world was beginning to seep into mine. I realized that I had engaged in a petty game that was destroying my peace, and I wanted more than anything to achieve closure. In a moment of clarity, I decided to return Max to Brandy. It was a gesture of goodwill that, quite frankly, I felt was overdue. I scheduled a meeting with her at a neutral location, a cozy coffee shop where we could both feel a bit detached from the emotional turmoil. When the day finally came, I found myself trembling with nerves. Would she lash out? Would she be grateful? When I saw her face, it was a mix of shock and confusion. I handed over Max to her, and tears filled her eyes as she embraced him tightly. To my surprise, Brandy smiled through her tears and thanked me, acknowledging that things had gone too far. I explained my situation, and we found common ground in our shared experience of betrayal and heartbreak by the same man. That day, we unexpectedly forged an alliance instead of a rivalry. I had set out to take revenge, but discovered something much more profound instead. I learned that revenge might offer a fleeting thrill, but human connection has the power to heal far more deeply. It turned out that while I had sought to make an enemy of Brandy, I found a new friend in her. From that moment on, things began to change. My life distanced itself from the chaos Lucas created, and I devoted my time to bettering myself. I embraced my passion for graphic design, poured my soul into my work, and began living for me. As for Lucas, he eventually reached out, but by then, I was no longer the woman who would bend to his will. I stood tall, confident in my independence and self-worth. I realized that I had the power to craft my own narrative, one without betrayal and heartbreak. Sometimes, revenge leads you down a path you did not expect, but in the end, it can give you what you never knew you were looking for, the strength to let go and move on.